We have a presentation on the proposed public safety levy that's on the November ballot. Following standard high school debate team rules, the pro side will go first, followed by the con. Each side is going to get 5 minutes, and then I'll make a couple closing remarks at the very end, and we'll all go home. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. Hi, I'm Josh Balloch, and I'm here to ask for your vote, yes vote, on 1774, the safety levy. The levy has been a community effort. We have gathered over 3,400 signatures, almost 6% of the total voters, to sign an initiative petition in just 5 days. Over 2,600 of those signatures were collected by volunteers who went out and spent their weekend and collected those signatures. There has been an awful lot of discussion about All Care, and so I wanted to address a little bit about that. All Care Physicians PAC, a PAC funded by local independent providers in our community, stands proudly with these volunteers and local businesses to try to help address this crime issue in our county. All Care Physicians PAC All Care has had some serious difficulties in being able to recruit highly trained people to move to our county simply because there's a perception and a real need for more law enforcement. And we saw this as a real need financially. But also, All Care Health sees this, All Care Physicians PAC sees this healthcare as the intersection between public health and law enforcement. If you want to reduce the number of babies that are born with drugs in their system, you've got to get drugs off the street. If you want to reduce the number of ER visits, you've got to get drunk drivers off the road so that they aren't hurting families. If you want to stop domestic violence and the trauma that leads to mental illness and addictions, then you have to have enough jail beds to lock up those abusers. So with that, that's some of those major reasons. I would like to actually introduce, to give an on-the-ground perspective, Susie, who is the program coordinator of Illinois Valley Safe House Alliance.
Hi, I have been doing this job for 10 years, and I have seen a lot of changes in the last few years. I want to tell you about, I got a phone call from my boss. She had a woman in her yard who was naked. It was the middle of winter. She had bruises covering her body. She had rope burns on her wrists and her ankles, and she had called 911. The sheriff was not available to come out. The state trooper called and wasn't available to come out for a couple of hours. In the meantime, there was somebody driving back and forth like they were looking for this woman. The fire department ended up coming out and taking her to the hospital. Over the past several years, we have seen an average of about 40 to 45 victims come through our doors in Cape Junction each month. The average is now 60, and in the month of August, we saw 75 individual victims come into the doors of the Safe House Alliance, and it's a small community. What I'm seeing is that we're a lot more emergency services, a lot more need, but a lot less restraining orders and protection orders being filed, because they're only as good as they are enforced. And if they're not enforced, they're not going to be filed.
How much time? So you can see where this is really important, and this has real consequences on the ground to real people, and we want to try to address this problem. Now, some have concerns about how this money is going to be spent. So I want to come out and say that Oregon law, ORS 311.350, requires that safety levy dollars be dedicated to the following law enforcement resources: increase the number of patrol deputies to suppress crime activity, reduce deputy response times, increase the number of detectives investigating crimes, because currently we have 0, enhance the treatment programs for those who are likely to benefit, enhance probation services, increase juvenile justice services, provide more jail beds to narrow the revolving door. Our county commissioners cannot repurpose these funds, and it would be a crime if they were to do so. The Oregon law requires that that these funds be used exclusively for criminal justice system, and that these funds are regularly reviewed by an oversight committee and independently audited by a private auditor. This is the people's money, and it will be used to catch criminals. We need to make our community safe, and we're not going to be able to wait for the federal government to make it happen. So please join us in voting for 1774, the public safety levy.
Good evening, Josephine County citizens. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Mark Seligman. I'm a 21-year resident of Josephine County, Selma. First, let me say I am not against law enforcement. I'm for law enforcement. This tax levy would create an immense burden upon seniors. Most of us in this room are over 65 years old. I'm over 65 years old. We've seen lots of stories in the media regarding crime. KJO Radio, if you look on their website, every single night, 6 stories of crime. There's nothing else. The media has a vested interest in seeing that this levy passes. Channel 5 is the same thing. Daily Courier is the same thing. Why are there no stories about the struggles of a senior, somebody on fixed income, the unemployed, the renter, the disabled homeowner, who, if they have this tax levy, that extra $20 to $40 a month tossed upon them, will put them in even further financial distress? Why don't we ever see an interview by the Courier or something like that? Why not? Because they have a vested interest in this tax levy. 9 times people have voted no. What part of no don't these people get and the supporters of this don't get? Grants Pass residents have a full police force. They have taxes for property tax, water utility rate increases, and now increased county taxes as well as Measure 97. When is a Grants Pass resident going to say enough? You know what this is? We live in a safe county. I'm from New York City. If you want fear, go to a city. Then you'll see fear. What's going on here is the politics of fear. Elected officials and the media are portraying this place as an unsafe community. I disagree with them. They're trying to scare seniors. How dare they? A senior has his golden years coming up. The worst thing you want to do is scare them. That's what they're doing. This is a perception of crime being up, not the reality of crime. All Care is the lead petitioner on this levy. My distinguished opponent here says that, well, they want to attract doctors to this area. Do you know that this building cost $22 million on 7th Street? Why would you ever invest $22 million if you felt this was a poor area and it's dangerous? That wouldn't be a very good economic decision at all. So I don't know why they're wanting it. This particular building is in an enterprise zone. That means there's a tax exemption. That means they're not going to pay if it was 58 cents a thousand as it is now, they wouldn't get to pay $280,000 in tax. And if the levy goes through at $1.42 a thousand, they avoid $400,000 in tax. But they want you, the taxpayer, to pay. To me, that is wrong. Seniors have out-of-pocket medical expenses, so now they'll pay even more. Now, I have to say this. All Care donated $5,000 to Lily Morgan and some to Keith Heck. And this was done as we knew there was going to be a levy. So any candidate that tells you, well, we didn't know at that time, is not telling you the truth. And they always could have returned it. 83% of the crime is in the city limits. 17% of the crime is in the county. And Oregon State Police statistics say overall crime is down. The proponents of a tax levy were nowhere to be found when in this very room, $1 million of windfall SRS money could have been put out toward the sheriff. And it could have been over a 4-year period, so the sheriffs would have trained somebody and they wouldn't have left. That's what the sheriff says would have happened. If Rob Brandis ran the sheriff's department, he runs public works, we probably would get that money. They want to scare you into voting yes, but not using available funds. We have a low tax rate here. The reason we have a low tax rate in this county is because our income per capita is $33,000, one of the lowest in the United States. People come here because of the low real estate prices. Greg Walden, your distinguished representative, did not fight for this SRS payments. I wonder why. That's something you should all question. Now, how do you reduce crime? You reduce crime by improving the economy, you have jobs, you create self-esteem, you reduce crime that way. Can we trust these county commissioners to use government money wisely? Have you ever heard the phrase, "Hi, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you"? I don't think so. More dollars, more government, more regulations, and more of an erosion on your private property rights. How much time do I have?
15 seconds.
50 seconds. I urge all of you to vote no on this tax levy. We live in a beautiful county. We have nothing to fear, as FDR said many years ago, but fear itself. Try a big city if you want fear. Not all crimes. Okay, wait a minute. The last thing I want to say is vote no on this levy. Our future's at stake. We don't want to put seniors in an even more difficult position. And I'm telling you the truth, and I'm a senior myself. Thank you for showing up, people.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight and educating yourselves about this very important election that's coming up on Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock at City Hall. There will be a forum that will feature all of the candidates for the Grants Pass City Council, so I hope to see all of you there too.